Hello again, it is 2:05 and you are listening to Upstart Live. Quick apology that we're having a few technical difficulties, but hopefully the stream is all up again and we can enjoy a very packed show. I again am joined with Georgie Meadows, who we're here with me as well to do these stories. She has the headlines.
Thanks, Matt. The Depression and Suicide Hotline Lifeline will shut down its Darwin headquarters after severe budget cuts from the Northern Territory government. It's been just 10 years since its inception. However, Lifeline Darwin has experienced continued decline in its government funding, instead relying heavily on fundraising, community support and sponsorship deals. Ironically, this decision comes on the back of National Mental Health Week in Australia, which aims to raise awareness of the pertinence and impact of depression and suicide in Australia. Although the Darwin phone lines will remain in operation, all of the face-to-face consultations will stop without a venue to host them. There are serious concerns for the locals who rely on these services, as recent data from the ABS concludes that intentional self-harm is one of the leading causes of death amongst men and women throughout the Territory. State government and Lifeline officials are encouraging Darwin locals to utilise the national hotlines in case of influx or overcrowding of local lines. Melbourne's traffic congestion is now at a record high according to Uber trip data. No Melburnians, it's not just in your head, you are spending an excruciating amount of time stuck in traffic during your daily commute. In a report that surveyed the routes and journey times of 14,000 Uber drivers, Melbourne is now shown to be the leading capital city in decreasing road network efficiency, which has obviously led to an increase in traffic congestion. Melbourne's increasing population, in addition to ill planning and increased construction around the city, are all said to contribute to our overcrowded roads. The report showed that an Uber passenger heading from the airport to the CBD in the morning peak could expect up to a 16-minute delay on average, compared with off-peak travel, and a 29-minute delay heading from the CBD to the airport in the evening peak. While there is no relief in sight, it is hoped that in providing regular reports on traffic delay, the metric will be used by governments and road authorities such as Vic Roads as a planning tool. Now, Billy Bush, the NBC co-host who interviewed Donald Trump, is what has become the most talked about story on Facebook of the 2016 election, has been suspended from his position. Bush has been accused of participating in Trump's lewd and sexist comments about women in the leaked footage from 2005. Bush has publicly apologised for laughing at Trump's remarks, including Trump saying he could do anything to a woman, including vulgar sexual advancements. Bush said that although he was embarrassed, he tried to defend his actions, emphasising that he was younger, less mature, and acted foolishly by playing along. Despite this, there is still no news on when his suspension will be lifted and what implications this will have on his future career. We, Matt, have Alana and Kurt in the studio later who will be discussing everything about yesterday's second presidential debate, so we'll hear more on that. And a story that broke earlier this morning was that the plebiscite in Australia for same-sex marriage is expected to be formally shut down by the Labor government today in Parliament, which I thought I would add in there.
More on that to come. Yeah. If you have been on the internet in the past couple of days, you would have seen some clowns. I mean, those terrifying... They're meant to be entertaining, but I just don't personally get it.
No, terrifying.
They're absolutely... Their expressionless faces are completely scary. They scare the bejeebers out of me.
I wouldn't even say expressionless. I think it's the very expression that is terrifying. That sinister smile is what unnerves me.
Especially if they have a meat cleaver or a chainsaw. So we thought 2016 couldn't get any weirder, but these clowns have just been popping up everywhere at the moment. I have Morgan in the studio to explain, Morgan Harding in the studio to explain this craze to us all. Hey, Morgan.
Hey, how you going?
Oh, not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, pretty good.
So yeah. Clowns.
What is happening with the world?
So this trend started in the US, where just people would pop up dressed as clowns in random situations, and now it's coming to Australia.
It has, not coming, it is here.
Ugh.
Panic, it is here. So yeah, there's been, as soon as they got here though, Victorian Police sent out a statement saying there is a zero tolerance for clowning around in Australia. And thus far, 9 clowns have actually been charged.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's very good.
Justice is real, everybody.
I know that a clown chased two 12-year-old girls 700 metres to a police station, so that's how he got charged, because the girls actually let him to the police station.
Wow.
But something
That's smart.
That is
Yeah.
very smart. Something I'm finding interesting though is I think that we're in less danger at the moment because with the Great Australian Attitude, people are actually hunting these clowns and going after them.
Yeah, like I feel more safe. The clowns should be terrified right now.
And if everybody can watch this video of a clown getting absolutely destroyed. And add in also that on the 8th, a Sydney clown was taken to hospital after being hit by a car in a Dan Murphy's car park. And one was also being hit the same day. So it's kind of really not a safe time to be a fake clown.
It's not, and not a safe time to be a real clown either. Like, this is insane, and we have a Snapchat here that I honestly don't think is real.
Yeah, that's another interesting question. A lot of people are setting up these photos to try to be funny and try to scare people, but a lot of entertainer clowns are getting terrified. They interviewed on the project a clown called Snuggles, who was nothing but definitely not snuggly at all, terrifying. And yeah, they're actually afraid to do their job because people are actively going to hunt these clowns. There's a page on Facebook called Clown Hunters Melbourne.
Yeah.
And they're actually going out, saying where the clowns are in locations to go and get them. So it's really a terrifying time. But I think that it's going to go away soon. Halloween is how
Surely.
long away?
I don't know.
Not this Saturday, but
days?
next.
Yeah.
Or is it the last Saturday of October?
I think it's the last day of October.
Okay. Yeah.
And hopefully then, no more clowns ever again, and we can go back to living our life
3
clown
weeks is
free.
3 weeks is a long time though. If this continues on such a hype for 21 more days.
Yeah, it's a
Can
long
you
time.
imagine?
I'm done with clowns.
Yes.
So done.
A lot of people thought it was also the people who were making the remake of Stephen King's It.
Yeah.
But they've come out to say that's not true.
Yeah, Stephen King put up a tweet saying the clowning is getting a bit out of hand. So I originally thought that as well, that it might have been some sort of PR stunt, but I'm not so sure.
Even if it is, it's gone way
Too
out of
far.
hand.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for covering that, guys. That was creepy. You are listening to Upstart Live. We are Matt Coburn and Georgie Meadows. The time is 2:12. We broadcast live at 2 p.m. every Tuesday on upstart.net.au. Coming up, we will have Dan Martinez and Rachel Roberts, who will be breaking down some of the discriminations around blood transfusions in Australia.
Yeah. And if you're tired of clowns and looking to escape, why not escape to space? Well, you can now. In Brunswick, there is a deep space escape room that was created by a young man called Michael Armstrong. At only 19 years old, Michael is starting this business. Our friends from The Cut Uncut, Adam Idenez and Jake Collar, in association with Daniel Trekovers, put together the next piece about Michael and his world achievement.
There was one game with a married couple where the girl just got a little bit too sort of freaked out. Her husband kept sort of being like, it's just a game, it's just a game. But she was just sort of like huddling in a corner, just like really sort of traumatized. Not traumatized, but I was really like, oh, I don't know if to end the game or not. But yeah, I sort of did end the game early. My name's Michael, I'm 20 years old and I run Deep Space, which is an immersive narrative game in Brunswick. I always wanted to start a business. Probably my biggest inspiration actually to run a business in general was my grandpa. He was a businessman himself, and so that was always a goal, but I didn't know what I wanted to start it in. And after I finished high school, I heard about the first escape room, Melbourne Escape Room, and then it got really booked out and I couldn't go before I went overseas travelling. So then I thought, oh, there might be actually a bit of a market here for something. I thought you could do so much more than just an escape room. As I went overseas to travel by myself, in some isolated places and some other places, I just had a lot of time to think about what I wanted to do with Deep Space and what potential ideas would work. Just like I wanted a spaceship and I wanted a robot that you could talk to throughout the whole game, just to make it quite sort of psychological. So I guess my first sort of big struggle was finding a lease. I was just like a 19-year-old kid and sort of looking for a big warehouse or something to rent. And even though it was sort of cheap sort of market leases, the real estate agents weren't always the best with the sort of service and were pretty quick to sort of brush me aside. They sort of wouldn't answer calls or anything. I was in quite a bit of a hurry to get Deep Space off the ground. It took 6 months to really find a place that would be suitable. I started actually looking at smaller spaces rather than a massive one and found this place where they're a little bit more desperate and the real estate agent was a bit young and I think just looking for a bit of a sale. So yeah, was pretty keen to sign me up. Well, I think one funny thing that always happens is when people walk down that laneway at night, they're sort of not sure what's going on or if they're going to be kidnapped or something, which is sort of part of the experience. I really want them to get into the zone of being a little bit on edge. When I first sort of thought of Deep Space, I had some sort of main goals I wanted to get out of it. I wanted people to feel like they were actually in another reality. And I wanted people to actually feel emotionally connected to Columbus, who's the artificial intelligence in the game. When we first started testing the game, people wouldn't really talk to him at all, and it was a bit frustrating because it wasn't sort of what I planned. But as testing went on and more people came through as we opened public, I was constantly updating the script and with the voice actor and putting it through, so that there was much more stuff happening, also just altering the game in general. And so that really changed eventually until it became what it is now, in which those two goals have actually been fulfilled. People do forget they're in a game, sometimes freak out too much. I guess I'm really lucky at the moment that this is all I have now. I don't have another job on the side. I don't need to work. Apart from Deep Space, I tutor one kid during a week, but that's more because I enjoy sort of helping people around. But yeah, this is my only job, this is my full-time work, and I hope it stays that way. With Deep Space getting like good reviews and just getting a good response from the general public, I've been really keen to work on something much more I feel is more my jam. Space, I really like space, but space isn't actually my favorite thing. So I'm working on a much more large-scale, ambitious project, which is about 5 hours long, but you sort of keep going through. You don't have to play it all at once, sort of save points. But it means there's much more sort of narrative progression. And I guess my sort of big inspirations for that would sort of be really like Zelda, so that's sort of one of the big inspirations, and the other is the director Hayao Miyazaki. And so I'd say those are the two main inspirations for my next one. My plan is just to sort of keep creating these games that are, really allow people to experience things that they wouldn't be able to, and not just have them sitting behind a computer by themselves, but like with other people, being able to make memories that they can remember. I've learned so much over a variety of random sectors in the industry and got a lot of connections through that. And so, I feel like even though my next idea is much more large scale and ambitious, I'm not really too scared about it at all. I'm really pumped and excited for it because I know the right people. So I'm already sort of like organizing my team and everything. It'll be easier for me to get a lease because I've already got a lease and they know I pay my rent. And just all this sort of financial stuff will be much easier now. Not scared at all for my next one, but just super excited, yeah.
You're listening to Upstart Live. I'm Georgie Meadows, and presenting with me is Matt Coburn. The time is 2:19. We broadcast live at 2 p.m. every Tuesday on upstart.net.au. The Victorian government has called on its federal counterpart to end the ban on men who have sex with men from donating blood. The need for blood is still at a high. So the question on everyone's mind is whether this law is a case of public safety or just blatant discrimination. Dan and Rachel are in the studio to give us a breakdown of this issue.
G'day guys, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
So,
As it stands, there are restrictions that prevent men from donating blood if they have had sex with other men in the past 12 months. Interestingly, Australia was actually the first country to reduce these restrictions from 5 years to 12 months. So
progression.
We used to be like super progressive, yeah, but not so much. Other countries have overtaken us now. But Friday last week, the Victorian Health Minister, Jill Hennessy, she met with her other health ministers from around the country, and they had a chat about reducing or even removing the deferral rate. And it was unanimously endorsed.
So that changes the time frame now. So
Okay.
So it's now no longer 12 months. It was...
No, it is 12 months, but they're still in discussion about like just how low they're going to go. But they all said it was a good idea to lower it or get rid of it entirely. So she said this policy is not so much about science, but more about the aftermath of the post-1980s hysteria with the AIDS epidemic. And, you know, if anyone has seen the old ads, those are like pretty scaremongering.
Very intense.
Very intense. So there are plenty of other countries with no deferral policies, but
yeah, the issue for us as Australians is many believe that it's fine because the blood's tested, right? Any donations given to the Red Cross is kind of given through a rigorous testing process to make sure it's safe to donors. However, according to the Red Cross, they cannot detect HIV, hepatitis B, or hepatitis C within the early weeks of infection. So without like strong knowledge of the health of all sexual partners, there's the blind spot for disease. Now, according to the organization, there has just been one case of like HIV transmission since 1985. But that places the risk at about 1 in a million. But that still is a risk of passing it on to another individual, a completely unsuspecting individual just in need of some help. So we're met with the case of, is this discrimination or safety? Rachel, what do you think? Discrimination, safety?
I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But I mean, like, obviously men who have sex with men do face a lot of discrimination in every single aspect of their lives, including when it comes to medicine. And, you know, it's a really huge issue for everyone because if we do ostracize a large group of individuals from giving blood, we're just going to end up hurting ourselves because, you know, according to the Red Cross, 1 in 3 Australians will need blood eventually. And, you know, there's a huge demand for these pints of blood because each don't last that long, only like 42 days or something. So if we can minimize the risk, shouldn't we just embrace all the volunteers we can get? I mean, like, if you are a man who has sex with men and you have protected sex, or if you do accidentally get exposed, just get on the PrEP, which is a drug that means that, like, PrEP is just a drug you take if you might have been exposed and has a 92% success rate of protecting you from actually getting the disease. So... like
it's like the equivalent of a Plan B pill for HIV.
Yeah,
right.
Okay. So like as long as you're straight,
and that's accessible. The pill.
Yeah, it is absolutely. Yeah. So as long as you're safe and you're smart, then I figure like why not?
Yeah.
And it's not just like the homosexual, bisexual, and other groups that are getting ostracized in this way. There's a lot of still really quite strange laws in relation to the who can give blood despite the need. Right. So one of them that really stuck out for me, we kind of went down the rabbit hole a little bit, but one of them is any Scottish-born Australians, regardless of age or prior health concerns, are not eligible to give blood due to fear of mad cow disease.
Any Scottish. So born a few days ago, come to Australia. Like, is that what you mean? Like, no, from as recently as last year, they're still not allowed to...
No. It's
wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting because my cousins were in the UK... 2003 or something, and now they're not allowed to give blood because they were just traveling there for a month or so. Yeah, well, you have those obvious travel concerns, the sexual histories, stuff like that. All the questions that get given in dossier. Piercings. Anyone who has been given a piercing or a tattoo is ineligible to give blood within 6 to 12 months, depending on the state. But you're still kind of stuck in this loop when it seems that homosexual and bisexual men are put in this category with, it's almost the equivalent to sex workers in some way. Like, sex work...
Right. What's the rules on sex workers?
So sex... Yes.
It's a 12-month deferral, the same as...
Okay.
So it's the exact same process that, like, putting in... So once again, we're met with a thing where they're still put in their own separate category.
Yeah. And I think, Rachel, your point was really valid.
I can't give blood either because I'm just under 50 kilos. #dainty. So yeah, if you're under 50 kilos, you can't get blood either.
Wow, that's oh my goodness. But I think your point in that, especially in terms of bisexual or homosexual men and sex workers, they're already marginalised in so many aspects of society, and this just adds another layer to it.
Yeah, absolutely. But what is cool is on the line now we have Dr. Jennifer Power, who, other than having a really excellent name, is a senior research fellow whose main areas of research are sexuality, sexual health, and HIV/AIDS. So she should be able to help us break it down. Jen, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Jen, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Hello, Jen. Can you hear
I
us?
can hear you, but I don't. It doesn't sound like you can hear me.
It looks like we're having some. Hello, Jen.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. No worries. We appear to be having some slight issues with the headphones.
Oh, okay.
No worries. So, first question is, so Australia lowering or removing the 12-month deferral period for gay men donating blood. Do you reckon it's a good idea?
I do actually. Yeah. I don't know if that's definitely on the cards. I know it's been suggested at various times, but it's certainly not been approved by the TGA to this point in time.
Ah, okay. So, but do you think it's time though? We've reached this period where there's a level of acceptance that we can now kind of embrace these elements, and it should equalize across sexual preference.
Yeah, look, I do think so. So when I say that, I certainly don't mean that there should be no screening. In countries such as Italy and Argentina and Spain, they have what they call individual risk assessment, which means when someone comes in to donate blood, they ask them a whole series of questions about their sexual practices in the past 12 months or so that they can determine their risk, potentially, of having a blood-borne virus, including HIV. The difference between that and the system we have in Australia is no one's banned because of the gender of the person that they have had sex with. So in Australia, a man who's had sex with another man within the past 12 months is automatically banned. And sort of the circumstances in which that man's had sex are not taken into account. So if he's, for example, had a monogamous relationship, been practicing safe sex, his risk for having a blood-borne virus might be very low. But that's not necessarily taken into account. It's just this sort of blanket ban on all male-to-male sex in the past 12 months.
Yeah, that's a really good point because in 2008, Michael Caine took the issue to the Tasmanian Discrimination Tribunal.
Yeah.
And although he was unsuccessful, he was really pleased that the fundamental claim that he was saying that, there are plenty of gay men who have safe sex or are in monogamous relationships have a lower risk than other people. And the Discrimination Tribunal, although they didn't change any laws, they did agree with that.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's a really tricky thing from a discrimination perspective, I think, or from a rights-based perspective, because in a sense you don't have an inherent right to donate blood. But where discrimination comes in, I think, is that the assumptions made about men who have sex with men are different to the assumptions made about other people. So a woman who comes in isn't expected to is I guess trusted to be able to make her own risk assessment about the chance that she's come into contact with HIV or other viruses. She's also trusted to disclose the sort of sex that she's been having or the unsafe sex or drug use that she's been engaging in. Yet gay men, it's almost like they're not trusted to disclose that information.
So in your publication, Movement, Knowledge and Emotion, you talk about some of the media coverage from the 80s. How do you think the media is doing now covering this kind of issue?
Well, look, that's a really good question. I mean, certainly the fear around HIV that drove a lot of that media commentary in the 80s is very different. We know a lot more about HIV than we did now. The media coverage tends to be much more... there's more science, I guess, so the media coverage can be much more scientifically grounded. So it tends to look a little bit more at the sort of risk assessment around blood donation. So, I think the media these days is pretty good on HIV, to be honest, particularly around issues that touch on gay men and homophobia, potentially.
Well, that's good. That's very hopeful.
Yeah.
That we are getting better.
Yeah, I mean, and there's just more knowledge, I think, and also the climate's changed politically, like you really don't get away. Well, actually, some people do, but for the most part, you don't get away with the same kind of vitriol, I guess, and homophobia that you did at that period. Like there was a short time in the 80s there where a lot of really horrible things were said about gay men in relation to HIV and AIDS, which would never be said now.
No, I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us, Jan. We really, really do appreciate your fantastic insight into this kind of issue.
No problem, anytime.
No worries. So,
Thank you. You're now listening to Upstart Live. We are Matt Coburn and Georgie Meadows, and the time is 2:30. We broadcast live 2 p.m. every Tuesday on upstart.net.au. Coming up, we have more stories from the Upstart team. Thanks. You are listening to Upstart Live, and another cow punch in Brisbane has brought the One Punch news back into the media. With One Punch still ruining lives and not enough people talking about how much taking a swig is leading to taking a swing, we have brought Alana Mazurek and Kyle Humphreys to talk about it more.
Yeah, it's unfortunate in today's society to have the known term one punch victim for a person who is king hit. Like, if you think about it, it's sad that we have had to coin a known term now.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Its prevalence and notoriety in today's society is saddening because victims are losing their lives. And the demographic for these victims are men aged between 18 and 25 years old. In Australia, the rise of male aggression due to alcohol and drug use is gaining traction, and I believe that there's a strong correlation between this growth and the increasing numbers of one-punch victims cases annually. So figures from the One Punch Can Kill website, which is run by Danny Green, the boxer, states 82% of Australian victims of physical assault are at a recreational venue, and believes that alcohol or drugs have contributed to the incident. So in regards to physical assault experienced by males, the offender was 82% more likely to be by another male, which is another big sign. You put two men in a bar with alcohol.
And the chances.
And the chances that, and it was interestingly enough, the offender was about as likely to be someone known to the person at 52% other than a stranger, which is only 47%. So in 2012, New South Wales brought in mandatory laws with a minimum sentence of 8 years for anyone who fatally punches someone under the influence, with Victoria shortly following suit. But it falls under manslaughter. So my brother was 23 when he was king hit, and it completely ruined his life for a good 2 years, lost all confidence. I've got a little bit of what he has to say about the experience.
Yeah, I didn't, obviously, you just can't prepare yourself for what they said. And I think initially I went into shock and didn't believe what they said. And I had to be told later on that night that that's what the doctor had told me. But at the time, you didn't feel much besides now I'm going to be looked upon as weak and all that kind of stuff, being so young that you're only 23 and you've had a stroke, which is something like a 75-year-old person gets being old type thing. After I kind of sat back and thought about it than I was, because obviously it wasn't provoked, it was just a random attack and just punched for no reason at all. And as I've said to you in the past, like, you just kind of feel that, you know, you've got this problem for the rest of your life where I've lost vision, which I'll never get back, and, you know, I lost a whole lot of confidence and stuff like that, and he just carries on his normal life like nothing happened.
2 years ago, a drug and alcohol review titled Alcohol, Masculinity, Honour and Male Barroom Aggression in Australia found that those who reported heavy episodic drinking were more likely to be involved in an incident of MARA, which is male alcohol-related aggression. The findings also showed that 170 male participants who were aged between 18 and 25, the ones who were involved in this male alcohol-related aggression, had higher levels of trait aggression, concern for social honour, and expected positive consequences of aggression in bars than those without such involvement. So, as we've seen in my brother's case, the guy got away with it. Unfortunately, the police couldn't find him, and it just blows my mind that people aren't thinking, and they're just they're drunk, and they're taking a swing, and they're really not, if they don't get caught, they're not dealing with the consequences. And if they do get caught for a fatal victim, it's only 8 years. And there's been a recent one punch victim over the weekend in Brisbane. And Kyle, you want to tell us a bit about what happened over the weekend?
There's just a bloke that's been punched in Queensland on the weekend. He was just out having a nice time with his mates, and they just gets one punch, and he's down. So, do you have a bit of a grab of what? I've got something.
Kelly, who've suffered another tragic loss. Thomas's younger brother Stuart has also died. He was 14 when Thomas lost his life. Stuart graduated from the King's School last year. Its staff and students are sending their thoughts and prayers to the family as well.
There was such a presence and a composure to Stuart that marked him as an extraordinary young man, and we will miss him dreadfully.
His death is not suspicious.
Yes, his death is not suspicious because somebody chose to take a stupid action, and because of that somebody has died. I guess I am a bit biased because of what happened to my brother, but as a young man, have you seen the prevalence of male violence when you go to clubs?
I've experienced it. You just open my mouth and everyone can see. So, broken nose and been king hit before. It's really hard to get anyone to identify someone. They don't have any right. There's no right for them that they have to identify who's done it. So, it's very easy to get away with. I'm lucky enough that I've never ever lost my feet when I've been hit. So,
because that's the problem. I mean, a lot of the time, it is the act of it, and then the force of your head hitting the ground because you're completely knocked out. Makes it 10 times worse.
It's very.
So you lost a tooth. Because somebody punched you in the mouth.
So they just hit me from behind, and then they just ran off. So
was it? So it was another unprovoked attack, like my brother's case. It was completely unprovoked.
I'm not going to say it was completely unprovoked because I'm not sure, but apparently it was. But I was knocked out cold, and I did wake up with my mum patting my face when I was 17 years old, wondering what's going on here. So
these things
scary,
so horrible because it's a split second.
It's pretty weird for your mum to be on your bed patting your face when you're 17 years old, and then telling me to go have a look in the mirror. So it's
so I've been looking into it. I've been thinking about it. What can we do to change this? And it says, like the Victorian Summary Offences Act, you can be issued a barring order if you're in a place like a nightclub and you're drunk and you're violent and you're arguing. And I believe that there needs to be more education to people serving alcohol to say no.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Alana Mazurek and Carl Humphries. You are listening to Upstart Live. We are Matt Coburn and Georgie Meadows. The time is 2:39 and we broadcast live at 2 p.m. every Tuesday on upstart.net.au. Coming up, we'll have Alana Mazurek back in the studio with Naim Kurt covering the latest instalment of the US presidential election, discussing the potential ramifications from yesterday's second debate. Alana Mazurk, name Kurt, we're all eager to hear what you guys have to say, so let's jump right into it.
Okay, so whatever chance Donald Trump still had of capturing the White House largely evaporated in his second debate yesterday against Hillary Clinton. I'm not sure if anyone watched it, but it was pretty shocking. So coming off the worst 10 days of any campaign in recent history, Trump desperately needed a win in order to reverse his slide in the polls. He was indeed better in the first debate, and Hillary was not as commanding, but he definitely blew his opportunity in the first 20 minutes, which he just could not recover from if you did watch it. He resorted back to his usual attack mode. He seemed to rope Hillary in it a couple of times when she decided to snark back, which was quite unusual of her. But, you know, he was making accusations such as Bill Clinton had raped a 12-year-old woman. He brought in these 4 women. And yeah, here are some of the highlights of the debate yesterday.
You bragged that you have sexually assaulted women. Do you understand that?
No, I didn't say that at all. I don't think you understood what was said. This was locker room talk. I'm not proud of it. I apologize to my family. I apologize to the American people. Certainly I'm not proud of it, but this is locker room talk.
He has said that the video doesn't represent who he is, but I think it's clear to anyone who heard it that it represents exactly who he is.
It's just words, folks. It's just words. Bill Clinton was abusive to women. Hillary Clinton attacked those same women.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
One of the most damning things we heard in that audio clip there was how Trump said he was going to put Hillary Clinton in jail. I have not heard any kind of person before, especially in American presidential debate between two people from different parties, one person saying he would put the other in jail if he was in power. It's such a breach of democracy. It's astounding that such a comment was made, I think.
I completely agree, but I mean, I was kind of expecting it because they set the debate up by not shaking hands, and that's just unheard of. I don't think it's ever been done in a political debate before, and Trump just went back to his usual insults. But what annoyed me was how both Clinton and Trump didn't stick with their policies and really weren't hard hitting at all with any of their policies. So it's just like, what are you going to do other than attack each other?
There was this cute little moment where one person from the audience asked Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton if they could say something positive about each other.
Yeah.
And they kind of really struggled there.
Yeah, really struggled.
I think Hillary Clinton said she really admires Donald Trump's children, and Donald Trump said, look, I admire Hillary because she keeps going at it and she never gives up, even though I completely disagree with everything she's doing and saying and her policies, etc. But there is no love lost between those two candidates.
And I don't think there's going to be any love in the third and final debate, which is on October 19th, and that's so pretty much it's a wait and see game. And as we saw, like I was reading about it, it's interesting. There's been the leaked tapes of Donald Trump before the second debate, and just a couple more days before that, there was more information leaked about the emails, and there are new tapes being talked about constantly, so I'm pretty sure they're just going to wait until a couple of days before the debate just to drop those again and give Clinton.
Should we talk about those tapes that were released over
We
the
should
weekend?
talk about those tapes.
I mean, those were some astounding tapes that were released. It's from
Hollywood
Access from 2005. So
with Billy Bush.
With Billy Bush,
which
cousin
is
of George Bush and Jeb Bush, and it's all very incestuous how everyone's related here. But they were talking about it was when Donald Trump was hosting his reality TV show, The Apprentice, and so they were caught off camera on a bus.
In the campaign bus.
Before they hopped off the bus to speak to, I think it's Ariane, who was also one of the other hosts.
Or as they called her, Legs.
Legs, yeah, and they spoke incredibly derogatory about her and sexualized her. And
he should eat a mint because he'll shove his tongue down her throat.
Gross.
Specific stuff.
Some comment about grabbing them by the
vaginal
area, and it's really off to hear that, but it's not surprising.
It is really off.
Think,
but what bothered me most in the debate was that at the beginning he completely turned it on his head and just they asked him the question saying, that's derogatory comments, that's sexual assault, and he talked about ISIS. You don't answer a question about that by saying, yeah, but ISIS. we have to fight ISIS. No, you need to answer your question about sexual assault.
I guess because Trump is just so respectful towards women.
Oh, yeah.
He just didn't think he needed to answer the question.
He called it locker room talk.
It was like that moment when they were fighting over who was going to answer the question first, and Trump just goes, "Oh, I'm a gentleman. Hillary can go first."
Yeah, it's just yuck. Because you know it's wrong. Now, can we please play? I'm sure we've all seen Robert De Niro's video.
Oh, yes, please.
But this is my feelings also.
Do not mess
Robert
with the
De
raging
Niro.
bull.
He's a punk. He's a dog. He's a pig. He's a con, a bullshit artist, a mutt who doesn't know what he's talking about, doesn't do his homework, doesn't care, thinks he's gaming society, doesn't pay his taxes. He's an idiot. Colin Powell said it best. He's a national disaster. He's an embarrassment to this country. It makes me so angry that this country has gotten to this point, that this fool, this bozo, has wound up where he has. He talks how he wants to punch people in the face. Well, I'd like to punch him in the face.
I guess the question is now, Alana, is there any chance of Trump recovering from this? I think a poll was released earlier this morning. I think Hillary's now something like 12 points ahead of Trump.
Yes.
And there hasn't been, like you said, a worse than 10 days in campaign history. Is
I
there any
can't
chance
see
of him
him.
recovering?
No.
No.
No, I can't. And from
It's done.
Yeah, it's done.
He's dead in the water. There was so many Republicans who've turned their support away from Trump. You know,
and today another Republican candidate has pulled out of his support.
Well, the
again.
head of the party.
The head of the House of Representatives, the Republic.
So it wasn't just, it was John McCain's now against him. It was
Yeah.
the 2008 presidential candidate. We've got Mitt Romney, who was the 2012 candidate, is against him. Even the Terminator, Arnie, has
Once
said
he's gone, you're gone.
Yeah, and it's there's even been talk, I think, in the Republican Party of how they could get him removed as a candidate and put up a new. But it's too
November
soon.
8th.
It's too soon to do that.
There's
but
less than a month until
it's
voting.
crazy that these kinds of conversations.
And early
are even
voting's already
happening.
begun too.
Yeah.
So it's too late to pull out now.
It's too late. It is. And
Well, to me, this is a good result. We want Clinton to win. So if Trump makes a fool of himself, good.
Can we be biased on here?
No.
Are we independent journalists?
I'm an independent journalist.
But you're putting your view forward that you prefer Clinton.
Yeah.
I think honestly, after all of this, you'd have to be nuts.
Do you not?
To be nuts to be supporting Trump. But
Yeah.
even we've heard Australian people in Australia saying they're backing.
I know.
Still backing Trump. We had Pauline Hanson saying that yesterday.
I know.
He's from a different
Did you
era.
see? And Darren Hinch had a crack at her. It was
Yeah,
great.
um,
I'm not going to say anything. I'm out.
No,
Well, thank you both of
Perfect
you.
timing.
And you heard it here first. We've been called to dump Trump. You are listening to Upstart Live. I am Matt Coburn and this is Georgie Meadows, and the time is 48 past 2. We broadcast live at 2 p.m. every Tuesday on upstart.net.au. Coming up, we have Jared Gardner, staff writer of the Upstart magazine, talking about some of the biggest stories of the week.
Now we have Jared Gardner, staff writer for upstart.net.au with us. Now before we start, Jared, may you please explain what exactly is Upstart?
So Upstart is a student-run publication by journalism students at La Trobe University, all edited by third-year students and staff writers among second and third year, all under the guidance of Erdem Kosh. And yeah, we've been writing for this semester and yeah, having a lot of fun with it.
Awesome. So what are some of the stories you've got for us this week?
So this week I've got a story by Jesse Robinson and Thomas O'Dell about polyamory, which is a new thing that's been a term that's been thrown around a little bit lately. Do you guys know what polyamory is?
I had actually an experience with this.
Oh, did you?
I was bartending at a private function, and I got talking to this girl, and asked her to coffee. Got accepted, and then she dropped the bombshell after the coffee date that she was in a polyamorous relationship. After the coffee date. I'm telling you, it didn't really work out.
I can imagine.
I don't know how people I can't get my head around how people wouldn't get jealous or.
Yeah, I can't imagine that as well. And Tom and Jesse both, they went around to the Agora at La Trobe and asked a couple of students about what they thought.
Yeah.
And the deciding factor was that everyone thought you love one person.
Yeah.
And that's what most people have thought. A couple of them switched sides and said, well, it is possible. But, yeah, I think most people were really not with it.
Yeah, one relationship is complex enough without throwing
definitely
2 or 3 other people in the mix.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Now, I understand that polyamory, by definition, means that all knowing parties consent to this kind of open relationship. But do you think there's still room for maybe if you haven't set very specific boundaries, there's room to kind of use polyamory as a guise for not being faithful?
Yeah, I guess it can be, because it's really giving people like free reign over who they want to be with, and they can really use this as kind of an excuse to be with more than one person if they really want to. I think it's a bad way to go about it, but I think people are doing it.
It's definitely an interesting
and
one.
I mean, there's merit in the argument, and it's been public for years. I remember watching I'm a fan of Sex and the City. So in its first season in 1999, they were talking about monogamy and polyamory. So and there are so many people saying that monogamy is unrealistic, it's dated. But maybe there's a middle ground between being completely devoted to one person and being completely devoted to 5 other people, you know?
Yeah.
Did anything anyone you interviewed say anything kind of like that?
I think there were a couple that said things kind of like that, but again, most of them kind of were with that view that it's really just one person, and you can't really, they couldn't see themselves being with more than one person at a time.
Yeah. It would be pretty exhausting, I think.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Possible.
And our passwords on cyberspace is an issue.
Yes, it is. Again, so this has come up multiple times. I think I've seen this all over the internet where people aren't using secure passwords, and 123455 was again the most hacked password.
I can't believe that.
That's my mum's password to her phone. Sorry, Mum.
No one got into George's mum's phone.
No, gosh.
And that was Nathan spoke to a couple of experts about password security. And it was really interesting to see that most people still, unless it's happened to them, don't really think about their privacy and their security in terms of all their online accounts.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's because I don't really have much of a presence on social media. I'm active on different platforms, but I don't really post anything unless it's photos of my cat. So,
one of those.
So lots of my passwords are exactly the same. And do you think, or did the research uncover that if people do, if you do the standards, make sure your password has one capital letter, one number, a hashtag, or a question mark, would it actually deter, for argument's sake, professional hackers or serious hackers from accessing your information? Is it that secure?
Yeah, I feel like it can, because I think most of these people who are trying to hack into accounts are really going after those generic passwords, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the A, B, C, D, those kind of passwords, and really kind of adding those curveballs into it where you throw in a capital letter, you throw in a number randomly, can really help in terms of keeping all your stuff safe.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Jack Gardner. You are listening to Upstart Live. We are Matt Coburn and Georgie Meadows, and the time is 7 to 3. We broadcast live 2 p.m. every Tuesday on upstart.net.au. Coming up, we have all the rumours, tears and triumphs in the week of sport with Hit and Miss with Morgan Harding and Josh Schonefinger. We have Morgan and Josh in the studio with us. How are you both coping with your post-grand final depression?
Not well. That's for sure.
Missing
Not
the footy
well.
a little bit, yeah, I got to say. But on to another code of footy this weekend. The A-League kicked off with some really cracking games. And
fantastic games.
The main one was the Sydney Derby, where Sydney FC routed the Western Sydney Wanderers 4-0.
Yeah, what a game.
It was even at half-time.
Scoreless at half-time, yep. And within the 51st minute, I think.
The floodgates
First
opened.
goal, yep. and it was the largest A-League crowd.
Which is incredible. We're just knocking off records left, front, and centre. And
yeah, it's amazing for the
entire
league.
round attendance was a record as well.
Yeah.
And the advertising campaign leading up to round 1 was much scrutinised by the footballing public.
It was by the community.
Looks like it's paid off
It's worked,
dividends.
I think, yeah. I personally liked it, to be honest.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You've got a team? Who's your team?
Who was my team? Melbourne Victory. The VUC, as always. What about you, Josh? Do you have a team?
Well, I'm a Melbourne City fan.
Oh, no.
So we're ahead on the table at the minute.
Yeah, righto.
Because
it's round 1.
Because of the victory.
It's a win's a win. It still counts.
It's round 1.
The victory fell at the last hurdle
they
against
did.
Brisbane. What happened there, Morgan?
Don't know. Troycy got injured, I guess.
Yeah, and he's going to miss the Melbourne Derby next week,
Yeah.
as is City keeper Thomas Sorensen with that red card.
Yeah.
The first red card in his 23-year career.
Wow. And the first of the league.
The first league of the season. Oh, no, well, Matt Mackay on Friday night.
Oh, yes,
got
of
the red
course.
card.
Yes, of course. So second.
Yeah. In other matches, Central Coast had a huge comeback against Perth Glory to draw
Yeah.
that game 3-3.
Yep.
And Newcastle also stole a draw against champions Adelaide. So it's good to see the two cellar dwellers from last season, Central Coast and Newcastle,
Yeah.
starting off with some positive signs.
Wow, yeah, definitely. It's great to see.
Finally, the other match was, as we said, City had a win over Wellington. They finished with 10 men. Only the first half goals to Anthony Caceres split the sides.
Mm-hmm.
And over in Japan, we had everyone's favourite tennis player, Nick Kyrgios, win the Japan Open.
Yeah, he's my favourite player.
You either love him or you hate him. I'm not sure which side I'm on at the moment.
Love. He just won the Japanese
Very hard to be on the
Yeah.
fence, isn't it?
Yeah, well, he's just, some of his behaviour is less than reputable.
Oh, he's 21.
Yeah, but still.
He's
You're
21.
representing the country. But
Well, that's
We won't hash this argument.
it would be a long, long show. if we
Yeah.
do.
In which I would be silent because I follow tennis.
just follow my side, Georgie. You'll be
Sure,
fine.
sure. Girls versus boys.
Yeah, I like it.
he's currently at a career high ranking of 14, which is great for Australian tennis. And
Amazing, yeah.
He could soon be the first Australian into the top 10 since Leighton Hewitt in 2006.
Wow, that's incredible feat.
It would be incredible. In that
Oh, it
year-
would. Yeah, hasn't happened yet.
In that year, Hewitt won 3 ATP titles, which is also the most that Kyrgios has knocked off this year
Wow.
since Hewitt. So, I mean, yeah, there are a lot of debates whether or not Kyrgios should be a role model for Australian young
Definitely.
tennis players.
Yeah.
But love him or hate him, he is getting results.
He is definitely getting results.
And
And
if
he's
he-
playing some great tennis.
And if he comes next January to the Australian Open
Yes.
and hits up maybe the final 8, the final 4,
Yeah, that'll
all
shoot
of
him
a
right
sudden,
up. Yeah.
the sports media coverage is
Oh,
going
yeah,
to
watch
flip on
it.
its head. So.
Watch it happen. Absolutely.
Great, guys. That was the roundup for this week's
Awesome. Well,
sport.
thank you, Morgan Harding and Josh Schonefinger.
Absolute pleasure.
You are listening to Upstart Live. We are Matt Coburn and Georgie Meadows. The time is 2:58. We broadcast live at 2 p.m. every Tuesday on upstart.net.au. And coming up, we have Jake Kohler and Adam Ioannidis giving us all the pop culture news in the cut. Jake Kohler, almost forgot your name. Adam Ioannidis, how are we?
Good, thank you. How are you, Georgia Meadows?
I'm very well, thank you, Adam.
And you, Matt Coburn?
Matt-
Nice. Got a thumbs up.
Without a mic.
That's greatness. All right,
So, pop culture.
massive week. New York Comic Con was on over the weekend, so it was a huge amount of reveals. Power Rangers trailer for the new movie.
What do you think of that?
Okay, so I like it. I don't like how they've made all the kids misfits. Like they're all like, you know, got personal issues and
Yeah.
they're all like drop kicks and stuff. It's like, no, they're all supposed to be really happy and smart and, you know,
Have you seen
in tune.
the movie they made originally?
I did. I saw the trailer, then I remembered I hadn't seen it with
Yeah.
Katie Satchkoff,
Yeah.
and that was really intense.
I saw it at the cinema, but you never really realize, right, with Because like the old show, they just used that old footage from.
Wait, are we talking about the 15-minute fan-made one?
No, I'm talking about the last Power Rangers movie they made.
Oh no, God no.
Oh, okay.
No, I
Adam
haven't.
only watches niche fan-made
It didn't really work because the original Power Rangers, right? They had, they took the clips from that. I think it was a Japanese show.
Yeah. Super Sentai or something like that.
So when they made the movie, they couldn't use that clips and they had to change the whole thing.
Yeah, the original Power Rangers was a lot of the footage was taken from the original Japanese show that it was based off, and it was just overdubbed because they're all wearing helmets, so it was easy to do it. But also, along with that, the next Marvel TV show on Netflix it was also announced, Iron Fist. Or not announced, sorry. We always knew it was coming, but the trailer was finally dropped. So Iron Fist with Danny Rand is going to be there, and he's the last Defender. So the Defenders TV show is also announced for 2017.
I'm most excited for that one.
That is going to be exciting.
Who got announced as the villain?
Sigourney Weaver.
That's huge.
Alan Ripley is going to be the villain in the Defender series. So that's very exciting stuff. That's great. You finished Luke Cage recently.
Yeah. Didn't like it as much as Daredevil or Jessica Jones.
No,
even though Daredevil and Jessica Jones were completely different. Like they felt like completely different shows. Luke Cage, didn't feel as good.
It was different to those two, but it wasn't different to the plethora, as I've been told, of crime TV shows that are out at the moment.
Yeah.
I think one of the groundbreaking things about it, which I'm pretty sure has been done before, but a massive thing for especially Netflix Marvel show was that it was basically an all African American cast, which
except for Shades.
Except for Shades, who was Latino. But,
Yeah, I started off, I really didn't like him. And then as the show went on, he became one of my favorite characters.
I agree. The Walking Dead trailer was also dropped. I haven't seen it.
I don't know if I want to see it.
I don't want to watch it.
Not a fan?
No, I like the show, but I don't want to know.
Yeah, they name drop who dies at the...
In the pilot?
No, in the trailer for the season coming back.
Pilot.
Well, they shouldn't have ended the original series, the original season like that anyway. The last one.
No, the last season ended with the new villain Negan basically beating someone's head in, but you don't know who it is. But apparently they drop who it is in the trailer.
Or maybe they're showing it as this is who it's going to be. So then when you watch the show, it's completely not who they showed.
Maybe.
And the audience goes, what?
There was a theory that it's actually 2 people that he kills, but I'm not sure. Not really hugely interested in The Walking Dead lately, to be honest.
That's
kind of got a little bit boring.
The another thing that got announced at the New York Comic Con thing, which I'm pretty excited about, is the third Dawn of the Planet of the Apes movie. Are you not into that?
Not an ape man.
No, I'm into the Planet of the Apes. I'm not into the last movie.
The one with
Gary Oldman.
Yep.
Didn't really do much for me. Kind of bit of a generic Hollywood, had nothing to add movie. So I don't know about the new one.
James Franco.
Yeah, that was not bad. It wasn't horrible.
No,
wasn't the best thing in the world.
It could have been a lot worse.
I mean, it's James Franco. It's definitely.
What are you going to say?
Worthy of watching.
Yeah. Okay.
So guys,
I'd have to disagree with that.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
we'll
he can be very good, but he can also be very bad.
I mean, Spider-Man. He was in with Tobey Maguire.
I didn't even think of
Spot on.
Franco as in Spider-Man, really.
Well,
11/22/63.
But I guess we'll have to continue this on Friday when we do our half-hour segment. Possibly be an hour this week.
1 hour show.
Definitely an hour this week at 2 o'clock on Friday.
We're going to go into everything into a lot more detail.
Sounds thrilling. Well, I'll be there. We'll all be there. So
Exactly.
I guess, yeah.
All right.
Tune in if you're interested. Now, we've come to the end of another show. We would like to thank our guests for their participation today, Dr. Jennifer Power and Jared Gardner, as well as executive producer Phil Kafkalutis, senior producer Dan Martinez, and our tech guys Jake Kohler and Adam Ionides. Of course, thank you to the rest of the Upstart broadcast team. You've been superb as always.
Next week, Tuesday, October 18th, 2 p.m. will be our final show of the semester, and we've worked incredibly hard throughout the semester. We're super sad that we're bidding you all farewell on our stellar program.
Yeah, so it's just over a week until the end of semester 2, so get excited, get some sleep.